The blood of this horse is killing me.
It's nothing but a sick, twisted game. None of this stuff is real.
Hey everybody, welcome to Lickbait. Tonight we're going to start on part 2 of our character creation. So sit back, grab a beverage, and let's get started on this.
All right, we left off finishing off the first page of our character sheet. We're going to get right into the second page, starting with advantages. Now, advantages are broken down into 3 parts. We have backgrounds, merits, and flaws. Backgrounds and merits can be predominantly synonymous for the most part. The way I kind of view them, our backgrounds are more mundane. These are things that you can have from your mortal life that can continue on into undeath. Some of the backgrounds that are very necessary and popular: resources. How much money you have, how much money you make, how much money you can spend, and all the things that come with that. If you only can afford a 1-bedroom apartment in a dingy part of town, you're probably not capable of getting military-grade weaponry through your money. But if you live in a fancier part of town, a small mansion perhaps, money will get you pretty much anywhere and open almost any door. After resources, I'm going to talk about 2 that are very similar, but do have significant differences: allies and contacts. Your allies are people who could possibly be friends or maybe just business associates, but these are people who will actively help you. They will come to your aid if you need them, whether it be a fight or, hey, my car broke down. These are people who will be there for you as quick as they can, depending on how many dots you have in the background itself. Contacts, on the other hand, while these are still acquaintances, possibly business partners, people you know throughout the world, instead of them actively helping you, they can feed you information. If I have an ally in the local police department, I can find out about current arrests or maybe even lawsuits against the police department, or maybe just get a good background check on someone who kind of makes me feel a little bit off.
Maybe even get a tag run.
Or a couple and find out exactly where those werewolves are hiding.
Yeah.
I see where you're going with that. After backgrounds, directly below it, you're going to come to merits. Merits are very similar to backgrounds, but instead of them being mundane and from your mortal life, these are more supernatural. Some of these can literally be supernatural capabilities in totality. A couple we'll talk about today, just a couple that we're going to go through overviews, and we'll do another video where we dive further into more of the backgrounds, merits, flaws, and such. Iron Gullet. This allows you to pretty much eat any kind of blood and actually have it be nourishing, to the point where if you find a corpse that's been sitting out for a few days,
still
Juicy.
yes,
that blood will still nourish you and still allow you to use your supernatural capabilities with it. One that has been used, again, a few of my players, I believe, have it. I think Billy has it, right?
Oh, yeah, Billy's got it.
Bloodhound. We spoke before about resonances of the blood, how emotions can amplify certain supernatural capabilities depending on who you drink and how that person is feeling at the time. Bloodhound is a merit that allows you to sense that resonance in the blood no matter where you are or who it is. It's a 1-point merit that Billy absolutely has.
Oh, yeah.
It can really help out in the long run, especially when getting ready for a large battle or having to get into some kind of political intrigue.
Yeah.
Knowing exactly what resonance is in that blood and how it will affect your supernatural capabilities is a huge advantage.
Yeah, it's come in handy quite a few times because I didn't really care for the resonance system when I first started messing with it.
Agreed.
But then as we started playing in the current, Chronicle that we're in and everything, I love it. I absolutely love it. There's so many creative ways you can use it. For instance, my character, he's got animalism and protean, so these are 2 things that both benefit from animal blood. He also has a large ranch with a lot of horses and a lot of cows.
Works out for him well.
Yeah. I can automatically get those bonus rolls using my protean or my animalism by just going out to the barn and snacking on Seabiscuit.
Absolutely. One more just to kind of give us a good rounded ideal of merits. And this is one that mortals can have to an extent. But we're going to talk about beautiful and stunning. Beautiful and stunning is a 1 or 2-point merit that allows you to get additional bonuses to your social roles because you just look that good. People are always happy to see somebody who's pretty and are so much more willing to listen to and or go out of their way for someone who just looks better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As much as most people don't like to admit it, sex sells. And if, you look good, insert picture of Brad Pitt here, then, it can open some doors for you.
It really does. Leaving merits, we're going to go down to the next section. This is one that a lot of people may be turned off at first, but this is going to help you really flesh out your character and give you some weaknesses here and there. But these are the flaws. Flaws can be both mundane or supernatural. I've got a couple here that we'll talk about. And since we just spoke about beautiful and stunning, why don't we bring up the exact opposite of ugly and repulsive? 1 or 2 point flaws, but instead of giving you bonuses to your social roles, it actually detracts from them. You are ugly. You're nasty. People don't like to look at you. This is going to push them away. Make sure that they're not really going to play into whatever game that they think you might be going at. The crackhead that comes up to you at 3:30 in the morning after the bar is closed and he's looking for a couple dollars, usually might push you away no matter how good of a soul you may be, especially if they're dirty, smelly, and face looks rotten. These are what some flaws may do. It's not always going to be easy to get around them, but there's some cool ways to do so. We have one of my characters who's actually here in the room with us right now, plays a Nosferatu. She has a very interesting way to get around the ugly, repulsive thing, to the point where she makes money online still looking ugly, because she makes it an ugly, beautiful thing.
She's overcome that butterface.
She really has. Next up on flaws that we're going to bring up are 2 different flaws that sound very similar but can be very different. Folkloric blocks and folkloric banes.
Yeah, these are some of my favorite ones to take, because these are the ones that give you that old school, like Hammer horror films, vampire vibe.
Really do. And Nate specifically plays them very well in a lot of ways. Folkloric blocks. Let's start there. Similar things like hanging garlic from your door will not allow a vampire in. Running water. Such like these. Things that will stop you from being able to move forward or keep you in place. If you are surrounded by a ring of silver, perhaps, it will not allow you to step over that silver in and of itself. You take it to a bit more of an extreme and you get your folkloric banes. These are things that, once again, the media has produced in a lot of ways. Bram Stoker talked about various ways: stake to the heart, garlic, holy water in and of itself. The folkloric banes are actually going to cause you further damage than normal. If I splash a vampire from my game, I don't think I have a single one that has a folkloric bane of holy water. If I throw a whole canister of holy water, they're just going to be wet. Had they had that folkloric bane, that holy water will burn them like fire.
Yeah. In some instances, especially in Eastern European, Slavic stuff, silver affects vampires like it does werewolves. World of Darkness, that's not true unless you have that bane, in which case silver, ammunition, silver-plated weapons, things like that will actually do aggravated damage in this case.
And remember, while these flaws, some of them can be rather extreme, this really helps make your character unique in totality. In my games, in every game, you have to take at least 2 points of flaws when you make your character. In my game, I allowed my players to take up to 3 more points of flaws that at character creation gave them 3 additional points to put into other backgrounds, merits, advantages, however you want to look at it. These flaws can be played with in a lot of ways. So don't look at them completely as detrimental, but more as fleshing out the character and really creating your own unique vampire in the game and chronicle you're going into.
Yep, and you could always just take the ugly flaw and then just put it into resources, because we know how that plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. Next section that we're going to go to, I'm going to hand it over to Nate to talk about one of his favorite parts of backgrounds and advantages, the havens.
Havens in this game are extremely important. This is where you sleep during the day. This is where you run to when you're in trouble. It can be anything from a dingy 1-bedroom apartment to a full-on mansion, or in my character's case, a large ranch. And most players, when they first start out in this game, they don't think about haven. They're like, oh, I'm a vampire, I'll sleep under a dumpster. And it's like, yeah, well, that sounds good and everything, and putting your other points into other things. But the haven in our game, especially my character's haven in this game, has become kind of the focal point in a lot of sessions, because it's where everybody gathers to meet up. It's where everyone goes to if there's trouble, because it has a security system. It has guards. It's a large piece of land. I have dedicated area to be able to keep victims.
May or may not have IEDs hidden all over the property.
Yeah, there may not be exploding balls of silver planted all over the property, because he does live out in the country and does have to worry about werewolves. Havens are so important in this game that they actually have their own merits and flaws. Some of the merits I just went over can be things like a security system, watchmen, warding against, magical stuff, a rear exit, an escape hatch out somewhere like a panic room, a library full of occult knowledge. All these things are advantages that you can have, merits that you can have inside your Haven. And they do cost an additional amount and cannot go over your overall Haven rating. Now, you can also take flaws for your Haven, such as it could be compromised. People could know where it's at, know that it's a vampire's Haven. The Inquisition could know about it. Your Haven could be creepy. It could just be a creepy place. Can't get girls to come to a creepy place, so it makes it a little bit harder to lure victims into your lair.
Haunted by your long-dead mother, maybe.
Yeah, your mom who died when you were 8 years old could be haunting your Haven and, constantly telling you how disappointed she is in you every time you bring, loose bar women home to eat them. There's all sorts of different things that the Haven can add to the game. It's something, like I said, that a lot of players overlook right in the beginning, and I think it's really, really important to have that squared away and have a good idea, because the Haven in and of itself kind of becomes its own character.
I really agree. As Nate said, in our game, his Haven has become pretty much home base for his coterie. It is, like he said, the place where they all gather before they have any kind of mission or trip that has already been planned. Anytime one of them's in trouble, they know that that is a safe place. They will be guarded, that they won't have to be looking over their shoulder every chance they get.
Okay, now on to the rest of the stuff on the back of the character sheet. And this is going to be a pretty quick run through here. At the top of the character sheet again, you're going to see a large area that says Biography. Exactly what it sounds like. This is your character's background. You have true age, which is the age that they actually are. So if you were a vampire that was turned in 1824, you're going to be 200 years old. Then you have your apparent age. This can be the age that you were when you died, or you might look younger or older than you were when you died. So that's up to the player. Then you have your date of birth, obvious, then your date of death. That's the date that you were embraced on. Appearance, this is not just, smoldering eyes, dark hair, sinister smirking expression. Put in some identifying features. Think of it as if you were creating a lost and found poster for someone. Do they have any tattoos? Do they have any distinctive features?
Are they wearing a Dale Earnhardt hat?
Yeah, are they constantly wearing a Dale Earnhardt number 3 hat? And then you're going to go into one step down, distinguishing features. This goes a little bit further into that. Scars. Is one of their tattoos, a parrot or a monkey holding a banana or something like that? Something that is very distinctive to that individual. Then one step down, history. This is the part where you got to be careful, because you don't necessarily want to hand your storyteller a 14-page novella on your character's background. That's the reason the space that you're given here is plenty to give. A quick little synopsis, where you're from, how you grew up, what you do, how you died. That is more than enough. It's a pretty quick and easy run through. You don't have to go into a whole lot of detail, and sometimes working with your storyteller and having things about your character's past come out sort of organically during the course of gameplay makes it a lot more fun. It also makes it to where you can kind of step into the role without necessarily knowing everything about your character. The best writers and the best novelists always say they have no idea what's going to happen to their character when they start writing the book. And you can kind of do that the same way here, as long as it's not something that's game-changing. You can't jump up and go, oh yeah, by the way, I know how to fly a helicopter because I was a helicopter pilot in the Army, before I died and everything, if you didn't put any points into that starting out. So you can't use it as a cheat mechanism, but you can use it to make your character a little more mysterious, or let them, let their personality and their traits and their background kind of form a little more organically. One step down from that is possessions. Generally speaking, I tend to take that as, what have you got in your pockets? Not necessarily, I've got all this stuff, back home in my Haven and everything. It's, what do you have on you right now? What do you carry on you every day? Do you carry a pocket knife? Do you have a cigarette lighter? Do you always have a handkerchief on you? Are you carrying, a demonic medallion that you found in a library somewhere in Istanbul? Who knows? But that's the kind of stuff you'll put here, is just whatever you happen to have on your person most of the time. And then if you're gearing up to go, on some sort of raid or a rescue mission or something, you can always tell your storyteller, hey, I have this stuff at my haven and I'm going to get it, if you have the resources to justify having it. Notes, once again, pretty self-explanatory. That's where you take down notes. Now, most people that have been around role-playing games for any length of time know that this is nowhere near enough room to keep all the notes for a chronicle.
Not at all.
So I highly suggest always having, a one-subject notebook. I usually tend to use one-subject notebooks per chronicle for my character notes and everything. You can also designate one player in your group to be the chronicler, the one that takes down all the notes, be the scribe. That way you have a good idea, between sessions of what happened last time. You do like the way we do it is Brandy is always the scribe of the group, and at the beginning of each session, she'll kind of read the last minutes.
And I personally, as a storyteller, incentivize this. I always want to have one chronicler for my thing. Everybody should take their own notes here and there for specific things that are important to them. But having one chronicler for each game is so important to me that I incentivize it. I give an extra experience point every single time we play to my chroniclers because they're putting in that extra work and they are helping us all remember what happened, whether it was last week, 2 weeks ago, a month ago. Real life gets in the way sometimes. And so having that consistent reminder is such a good thing. And putting out that extra point of experience isn't going to break the bank regardless.
Yeah, and it really does help out a lot because we've had to turn back to those notes, sometimes go way, way back and see, oh, that's right, we did encounter this person here, or we did get that item. So speaking of experience and more items, if you look just to the left of notes, you're going to see experience and weapons. Experience, exactly what it is. You've got your total amount, that's how much you have overall that you've been awarded over the course of the game, then your spent amount. This makes it a little bit easier to keep up with your experience since you do use experience as a currency in this game. You are using your experience to buy different disciplines, increasing skills, increasing attributes, increasing merits, backgrounds, all these things you use the experience for. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put right here a nice little picture of the breakdown of how experience points are spent, like what each particular thing costs per level. And the way it normally works is, say for instance, if you're going from strength 1 to strength 2, it costs 5 points of experience times the level you are going to. So if you're going from 1 to 2, it's going to be 10 experience points to raise you up 1 point to that second level of strength. So that's a good thing to keep in mind, is it's not a straight 5 for each dot. It's on a scale, so it's multiplying each time. So the higher you get in something, the more it's going to cost to get that next level. Down below that, weapons. A lot of old school World of Darkness people, it's going to kind of gripe you out a little bit, but the weapon format for current Vampire and Werewolf is not as expansive as it was in first edition, revised, or V20. You have basically 6 different varieties of weapons. All of them are going to be light, medium, and heavy. So you have light, medium, heavy melee, light, medium, and heavy projectile weapons. So melee, of course, swords, knives, axes, pipes, boards, frying pans, whatever. Projectile weapons, guns, crossbows, bow and arrow, blowgun, minigun, anything that shoots a projectile, slingshot. And I guess to sort of streamline everything, what they decided to do is go to this format. So your damage is going to come from the type of weapon if it is light, medium, or heavy. So it's not like it was in first edition where it's like, oh, I've got a 22 and it only does, 2 dice of damage, but I've got a 50 cal that does 10 dice of damage.
Right.
So now it's just whatever it is, and you can write down whatever you want here for flavor. If your guy carries around, a British longsword that was carried by his Crusader Knight ancestor or whatever, or if he's just got, a Glock 19. Whatever it is, you can write it down there, and the visual will help you out as far as the little bit of flavor and everything that you have for the scenes and stuff. But as far as the damage goes, they simplified it so there's not a whole lot of looking around or keeping specs on that particular weapon. There's enough room right there to write down, if it's a projectile weapon, if it goes out to short range, medium range, long range, They did away with things like reach and stuff like that for melee weapons. But once again, this is not a game that's played real heavily with miniatures on a grid map or anything. It's all done in the mind. So that's stuff that, you sort of have to go over with your storyteller. You got a guy that's carrying a sword cane around and his opponent's 10 feet away from him, but then you remind your storyteller, hey, if you look over here, I'm actually 6'6", so my reach, on a good riposte should be able to reach him no problem with that. That's the kind of things you want to discuss with your storyteller and everything. That pretty much wraps up everything for page 2 of the character sheet. We told you this was going to be a quick one.
Mm-hmm. If you guys have any specific questions about the character sheet or character creation, please write them down in the comments. We are checking comments daily, and we will absolutely start replying and creating new videos based on those comments.
We will be putting a copy of the character sheet that we've been using for this and that we use in our games in the comments down below. And it is fully interactive, so you can just pull it up in whatever your PDF program is on your computer and fill it out completely on your computer. So you don't have to necessarily even print it out.
Makes it a lot easier for us to keep everyone's characters updated and in a database to where if you happen to forget it, I can print one out real fast for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a luxury we didn't have back in the day.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up on this one.
Thanks, Licks. Once again, for Lickbait, my name is Joe.
I'm Nate. Y'all have a good one, Licks.
They're vampires. And what we need is crucifixes, silver, garlic, holy water, and Christopher Lee.
Oh, shut up, you soppy tart.